Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Decoded Live, our show for OutSystems developers featuring OutSystems developers. My name is Eliza, and I am the Community Engagement Manager for OutSystems in North America. I'm joined, of course, by my colleague and co-host, who I'll let introduce herself. Cecilia?
Thanks, Eliza. Hello, everyone. I am Cecilia Martinez-McCrae. I am a lead developer advocate here at OutSystems, and I am so excited to welcome you to our 5th episode of Decoded Live. Can you believe it? It's already been 5 episodes,
Amazing.
Eliza. And today we are going to be talking all about the alignment between business and development, and we have some really great expert panelists here for a lively discussion on that topic. But before we dig into that, we'd like to start with some updates to share with you from the community. First, I'd like to give a big congratulations to our new OutSystems MVPs for this year. Yes. A well-deserved round of applause for our MVPs, or our most valuable professionals. This MVP program recognizes the technical experts that contribute to our community in so many valuable ways. We're talking about forum contributions, resources, speaking at events, mentoring, teaching, even doing Forge contributions as well. These represent the best of the best in our community, and we not only thank them for their contributions, but celebrate their achievements. If you are interested in learning more about the MVP program, I encourage you to get involved with our community, learn about the program, maybe, engage with some of our existing MVPs and learn from them, and see if maybe in the future, you'll see your own picture on here. I know that a lot of these MVPs have been guests on our show, and, not to spoil anything, but we may have some more in the future MVPs on the show. And we really congratulate every single one of our amazing OutSystems MVPs.
Well done, everyone. So we also just announced 5 Developer Days events. We kick off, this is a long list, April 1st in Austin, then on to London, April 8th, Tokyo on April 24th, Sydney on May 1st, and Manila on May 6th. We've got links to all of those in the chat, so check those out. And also keep an eye out. I have it on good authority that many more cities are yet to come. The DevRel team is racking up the mileage. If you are already in the already announced areas, though, be sure to register now for packed agendas featuring OutSystems experts. And if you're headed to Austin, I will see you there. I'm very much looking forward to some barbecue and tacos. Next up, I wanted to say that we have opened registrations for one. We are headed back to Lisbon for our Global One conference this year. The event is September 30th to October 1st. Just like last year, we'll be bringing together our developer and business community for a 2-day event. And speaking of bringing together developers and business, let's get into this panel, Cecilia.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited to be at one, and I'm even more excited to start this amazing discussion with our wonderful panelists. Let's go ahead and welcome Praveen and Fernanda to the stage. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to kick off with a round of introductions. Let's start with you, Praveen. Can you tell us more about your role at Heineken and how you work with OutSystems?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I'm part of OutSystems Center of Excellence within Heineken. So I am performing the role of a technical lead, that is from the platform side. And my roles and responsibilities mainly include maintenance of the platform itself, platform security, like applying the latest upgrades released by OutSystems, and also bring in innovation to the platform, promote reusability, and also helping the development teams within Heineken to maximize their use of OutSystems by adhering to the Heineken's best practices and also the coding standards. Yeah, back to you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And before I go to you, Fernanda, just a reminder to everybody here, if you're watching, we will have a live Q&A at the end of the panel. So if you have questions for Praveen and Fernanda, please put those in the chat and we can get those to our panelists. And Fernanda, let's hear more about you and your role at Heineken.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first, thank you for having us here talk about this very exciting and also challenging topic. So I'm Fernanda, and my role is a feature lead within the Heineken. I work very closely with Praveen as part of the OutSystems platform, and my role it has to do with driving the development and enhancements for the OutSystems platform. So my focus is mainly on prioritizing the features that are related to the platform and ensuring that whatever is built, so whatever application is built on the top of the OutSystems platform, is compliant with our standards and global governance and so on. So it's really about enabling the teams and the platform itself.
Awesome. Thank you for that great intro. So before we get into the topic of business and development alignment, I want to congratulate Praveen on your recent recognition as an OutSystems MVP. How does it feel to be part of the program?
Well, actually, I'm thrilled to be recognized as MVP for the year 2024. This will give me a chance to collaborate and also, meet with the best tech gurus of OutSystems across the world. Yeah, because not just that, and also I could. It also gives me an opportunity, to mentor and add value to people who really wants to learn OutSystems, how to develop in OutSystems, and how to understand, doing a development activity with OutSystems. So it's like, yeah, I'm very much excited. I'm looking forward to see what this door opens for me in the future. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's been great having you in the MVP chat, and I'm really looking forward to what you do. Speaking of recognition, Fernanda, Heineken won the OutSystems Innovation Award at our One conference in Amsterdam in October. What was it like attending One and being sort of a part of that experience?
Yeah, so for me, I have been working with OutSystems for about 4 years now, and it was the first time that I finally managed to go to the conference, and I must say it was a really amazing experience, and it for me reinforced, I think, the true power of low code, and it was a great opportunity to really connect with other with partners, with other companies that are also using OutSystems and how they are actually leveraging the capabilities. So it was a very great learning moment, and of course, who doesn't like a trophy moment, right? So yeah, but all jokes aside, I think the reward of a high performance team was really a recognition to our teams, and I extend that not only from the global product teams, but also on the federal teams who are actually the ones driving in scaling the delivery model and making also for our dream as Heineken company to become the best connected brewery.
That's amazing, and I think it really shows, how well that your organization has accomplished the alignment of business and development by having a presence at One. That you were able to be there on the business side and also the development side, and working collaboratively in that way. And today we're talking all about how business teams and development teams can work together more effectively. And I'd like to start, by kind of pointing out, Praveen, you're representing the developer side, and Fernanda, you're representing like the business side. But it's not really a competition or a versus, right? It's all about working together well.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get your perspective to start on, why is that so important? And Praveen, I know I have worked with developers before, and I'm sure you have, and we probably all have worked with some developers that feel that they should just focus on the tech and nothing else. Why is it important from your perspective for developers to, understand and be invested in the business impact of what they build?
Yeah, so it's actually very important for developers, like when they start, right, to understand the complete business flow. So it's not just about the requirement itself, like which they get, from their leads to actually start developing, but then about the content of the application that they're going to build. What does the business actually look like? What they are going to contribute? Like, like if they could mentally picturize it as a whole, then if they focus only on the technical aspects without understanding the complete business process, then their work itself, it becomes like rigid and stale. This could potentially cause problems in the longer run. because especially leading to refactoring of the code at some point in time, and also during the maintenance phase, it would become very chaotic, because the moment you start understanding, okay, the end-to-end process flow, it's quite easier for you to picturize it and adapt your code to it, your architecture. You'll be able to easily generate what the code that is necessary to accomplish the problem statement itself. So I would definitely say that as developers, they should not stick to just doing the development aspects alone, and we should work collaborative with the business to even understand, and that would give you, it will make you a subject matter expert, basically.
Yeah, I love that perspective, especially about how it keeps things from being static. Because I know developers hate being bored, right? We hate being bored, and so that's a really good point there. And Fernanda, from your perspective, why is it important for you to engage developers and get them invested in the business and product decisions?
Yeah, so first, I think I can completely relate to what you mentioned, right? That developers often are very focused on development, but indeed on the business side also there's some areas there definitely that can be improved. When I look at the collaboration of them, I personally like to look at as a dynamic duo. You have a big idea in one side, and on the other actually can make that fly. I think it's crucial to engage the developers on earlier stages and also as often as possible, because they bring a unique perspective. So we should really move away from this concept of developers just focus on code, because they are also innovators. They are able to assess feasibility, the scalability of the solutions, and sometimes also improve processes that are sometimes overlooked by the business. So it definitely takes two to tango, So definitely also, So I think both sides bring different perspectives, and I think that's complementing each other.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of how each side has its own perspective and how they complement each other, I think maybe the way that you approach it could be different on each side as well. So this question is for both of you. We'll start with Praveen. What do you see as your primary responsibility when it comes to cross-functional communication and collaboration?
Okay, so the key factor as such is actually the collaboration itself. That is like translating technical jargons, because developer always, most of the time, they tend to think in terms of with the technical keywords and stuff, and while trying to explain what they have in their mind, it should be translated into a non-technical a language that is easily understandable by the business team and also the stakeholders. So and they should also understand the business goals, and also they should be involved in providing feedback and suggestion to the business, such as like how a certain process could be optimized. Say, for example, in OutSystems, like you create long running timers, for example, and there could be situations where you could find queries that are slow performing. These are the things that you can always look into the service center and find those logs, and there are always scope for improvement that you could potentially see, and it is important from developers to actually take that into account, take that responsibility, and also try to explain to the business team, like, okay, the current solution acts in this way, and if you could potentially improve the performance of that running applications or the timers, and how you can potentially automate the solution itself, right? This can help the stakeholders to understand, okay, how it can bring value adds to them, because from that perspective, I see that stakeholders will also like to understand what could be the value add that they could potentially take out of it, right? So we should harness the automation capabilities of OutSystems as developers to achieve the hyper automation goals by designing workflows that automate repetitive tasks.
Oh, that's great. And Fernanda, for you, is it similar? Is it the kind of communication and almost translation aspect of it that you see as primary to your role for cross collaboration?
Yeah, definitely. A close connection to what Praveen said. As a feature lead, it's about ensuring that everyone is in the same page, right? So it's keeping focus on the value and making sure that everybody feels heard and that understood as well, right? So that's, I think, the key of the role: gathering what developers are saying, what business is saying, making sense of it, and bringing the focus and understanding is an enabling role.
Yeah, makes sense. So we're having this discussion because it's not always easy for these two sides of the company to kind of work together. So why do you think it can be difficult? Like I've seen it in so many companies, but why do you think it can be difficult? I'll start with you, Fernanda.
Sure. Well, I think there are many reasons, but I think the main one, it has to do with the fact that they speak different languages. So if you look at the business side, business is very much result driven, right? It's about outcomes and deadlines and customer impact. And on the other hand, you have the developers who are very much focused on the technical side of things in architecture and code and so on. And these differences are of perspective sometimes lead to misalignments. And I think that's where the issue lays. And also, if you look, sometimes is on the nature of the organization as well, if you think about it, because especially in big corporations and multinationals like Heineken, you are sometimes, if you're working IT, you're very far from the core of the business. Yeah. So that gap in between this actual core and the development sometimes is very big. So it's difficult to bring those together.
Yeah. Same to you, Praveen. What do you see as the reasons it can be difficult for the teams to collaborate?
Yeah, so one of the things from developers is like they get immersed into the technical details, and the other challenge is the pace. So when I say talk about pace, it's like sometimes there could be situation when business comes with a critical deadlines, right? And but development always requires some time to build robust, scalable solutions, because you will also have to spend more time on laying down the architecture and making sure that the application is free from technical depths, and how you create the modules and everything, etc. So this so if there is not sufficient time taken into account, right, for all these aspects, this could potentially lead to tension around timelines and expectations. And the work is not properly broken down into features and user stories and not estimated correctly, right, then it could lead to a chaotic situation, ultimately leading to a poor code quality and increasing technical depths, causing architectural or performance bottlenecks. So overall, it is quite important for both of them, both the developers and the business, to sit together, try to see, okay, what is the expectation, how much of time is required to create an application for a longer term, so all those things should be taken into account.
Yeah, amazing. So you touched on this a little bit, Fernanda, but what do you see as the specific barriers between business stakeholders and development teams?
Yeah, I think it really bears down to the difference in expectations, exactly because of that misalignment on what one is doing, the other one is doing, and priority. So just because I think there's a bit of a misconception also, especially with the terminology of low code in general, because sometimes when you go to the business, say, yeah, we're low code, and yeah. It is definitely, of course, it's proven it's much quicker to develop using low-code technologies, but it doesn't mean that you don't need time, and it doesn't mean that you don't need clear requirements. And I think that's where the barrier comes on this misperception of what is expected. So we don't skip design architecture, we don't skip testing. So that's still there, more efficient, more automated, but still there. And again, about priorities, business really on a high pace, like Praveen mentioned, and the developers sometimes over-engineering or trying to reach perfection. I think those are definitely barriers. So for sure, enough time it needs to be dedicated and priority given. And sometimes a bit of a compromise from both sides, either on technical side or on the business expectations as well, what they want to have.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, Praveen, you can be in the process of developing the world's greatest app, but your workflow can be sort of interrupted by these communication challenges and misalignments. What exactly happens in the workflow that causes a breakdown?
Yeah. So so when we look from the developer shoes, right? Like if the alignment from the business requirements are not made, in a timely manner, that is when there are situations with constant changes to the requirement, then effective communication becomes a key here. Because implementing changes during the development might require additional code changes, or lack of effective communication could lead to repeated rework or refactor, and it could potentially increase the technical depths and the bugs. So this could always impact the developer's workflow because of the time and energy that they have been putting into the project and also the development. And constant changes without proper communication could impact their focus, and also the it's, as I mentioned, like it could lead to a lot of reworks, and potentially causing a lot of technical depths on the application itself. Yeah.
So I know we've talked a lot about some of like what these challenges are, and I don't want to spend too much time on kind of the negatives and the challenges, but just one more quick question, and I'll just throw this to Fernanda specifically. Is there something specific, because this show is kind of focused for developers, that developers tend to misunderstand around business requirements that you've seen? Maybe not necessarily at Heineken, but just in general.
I think that in general, we underestimate actually the pressure of the business. So sometimes things may seem a bit like a nonsense coming from the business, but actually they're also the experts on their fields, right? So I think that should be also taken into account. So the business, they are also under pressure. They need to respond to the market quickly, and like I just mentioned, often they want to move quickly, so they prefer to get something out there that they can get the value out of it, while developers tend to again go back to, I want to reach this perfection, I want to do the end to end, and skip a bit of the, and they don't want to do this quick iteration. So I think that is the first thing that comes to my mind for sure. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. So like Cecilia said, we're sick of the negative. Let's move into some positives here. How can we all go about addressing these challenges? Praveen, how can technical teams better communicate sort of the project constraints and possibilities?
So one of the things that they could use is like a non-technical language. Like, specifically like, many business stakeholders may not have a deep understanding of technology, and using technical jargons could always confuse them or create misalignment. So instead of that, use visuals, to explain the limitations or possibilities. Then also set expectations early, because defining what is possible within the scope, time, and budget early on reduces the misunderstanding as the project evolves. And also highlight both opportunities and limitations, because stakeholders need to understand what can be achieved and what might be challenging, so they can make informed decisions. And also use prototypes or mock-ups, because OutSystems, you can use the OutSystems ability to create quick prototypes to demonstrate proposed solutions. You could always use the builders that we have for like experience builder, if you wanted to showcase a UI UX design quite quickly. So such things if we can potentially take it up to a meeting with a stakeholder directly, just on the fly, use this as a feature to showcase it to the stakeholder. It becomes very clear of what the business requirement is. It becomes transparent for everyone there on the room.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So sort of speaking to that, Fernanda, how do you translate these really complex business needs into actionable technical specifications for the technical side?
Yeah, so I think it's a bit of a decoding a message, I would say, because it's not always that straightforward, but I think there's a first step that's there, which is it starts with understanding the bigger picture, right? What are the requirements and why are they there? Which value does it bring? Which impact does it bring? So it has to do with a bit what Praveen mentioned a bit before, understanding the whole picture and not just an element to it. And then it's breaking those into smaller bite pieces, size pieces, by identifying what are the main features, what are the dependencies, and so on. And normally this process I don't do in isolation. So it's always also a collaboration with the technical team and the business. So in some conversations, of course, I have with the technical team, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then we get their perspective on what information more they are lacking to get to what they need. And at last, of course, then we come back with user stories that are more detailed. And we don't have, of course, all the user stories from the get-go, but we do. So we start iterating also throughout the development process. So it's very pragmatic, maybe approach, but it's normally something that really helps us to move on a pace also that we can start delivering value and that the requirements are also clear.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too from the communications perspective, right? We talked about how, you're kind of speaking different languages. You need to be able to understand how the other person is going to view that and what their priorities are. I'd like to also talk about some of the ways that you can overcome like technical misalignment or make sure that you're technically aligned. Fernanda, I'll go back to you first. What are some of the ways that you balance the need for business speed with technical quality, and how can you ensure that those trade-offs are well balanced?
So I think the sweet spot lays on actually finding that balance between delivering result, but without actually compromising the foundation and that the application can actually be scaled and delivered effectively. So I focus normally in a couple of strategies. So one, it's which is my main role, right? Prioritizing the features, and that has to do with identifying the value. And a tool that I use all the time, for instance, is the value and complexity metrics, right? So you can plot each feature on based on complexity and how much it brings. So it's really a practical tool that I use, and having the MVP mindset, so the minimal viable product. So not the most valuable OutSystems developer, but something else. So where you really iterate quickly and then you improve gradually. So we might choose to deliver something simpler in a short term, and then over time you add to it. And of course it's important because that's also the origin of the question, right? It's important to acknowledge the technical debt. So it's some technical debt, it's not something you can always avoid, and it is there most of the time, but it's also something that if you compromise, it's also good to have a strategy on how to tackle it, so that you also don't just leave it, because you might go quickly now, and then later on it will bite you in places that you don't want to. So it's better to just also have a strategy, and of course, always communication, right? That is the bread and butter for sure when it comes to collaborating.
And Praveen, from the developer perspective, I know that it's important for you to understand, okay, yes, we're adding these features, this is the business value, and there may be, good acknowledgement of technical debt, but how can developers advocate for it? How can they really communicate and say, this needs to be of a specific quality, or we need time on this sprint in order to address these other issues? What does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so of course it's like very hard and nearly impossible to reach 100% of reduction with the technical depth, just like Fernanda mentioned. But however, it is very important to address the critical sections such as like architecture and performance and maintainability aspects, because every organization can have their own custom best practices, which can be adjusted in the AI mentor. Like you have these code patterns where you can ingest your own the severity levels and etc. But what actually matters is like having a quality control. It's very important, because frequent and constant changes to the application in a short duration of release cycles could actually require time for developers to analyze and make changes, because such that it does not impact the code quality and performance of the application. And it could also potentially introduce breaking changes, or it could break a working code. So sometimes, due to like poor implementation of the design, fixing a bug could potentially introduce a new bug, into resulting in a cyclic effect. So it's quite important for developers to also make sure that their application is the major portion of the applications are dealt with. And you always at least see your applications are in a green state, and the AI mentor also do a performance check. If it is a reactive web app, make sure that you could use Chrome tools. Always use the lighthouse feature of Chrome, which could also enable you to see how your web page is performing, etc. And it's quite important for them. Make sure that the application is for a longer run, it's sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So before our next questions, I just want to remind the audience that we're accepting questions into the chat. I know we haven't asked any of them yet, but we will very shortly. So I want to turn our focus to why we're here today, OutSystems. How does OutSystems sort of help bridge the communication gap between teams at Heineken, Fernanda?
Yeah, so for me, something that I find very powerful with OutSystems is the power of the visuals. Yeah, so I think when explaining to anyone, if I want to explain to my daughters, I think visuals is powerful, and that's what I think OutSystems is enabling us on very early stages. You can already see what the concept will look like, and that really helps me to explain to my stakeholders or even for the developers on what a concept will look like, and validate their requirements.
Absolutely, yeah. So how OutSystems has sort of always prided itself on rapid prototyping, rapid deployment. How does that capability change the feedback loop between business and development at Heineken, Praveen?
Yeah. So using OutSystems, right? Like business teams can quickly see their ideas translated into a working feature. So this is speeding up the feedback process, because this rapid turnaround is helping us as a team to enable a more dynamic and an iterative development cycle. And because we are using visual models and workflows, right? The business and development teams can collaborate more seamlessly, and also the development becomes more of a joint effort here. Reducing the misunderstandings and aligning the project with business goals in a real time. Not just that, these live previews, right? These make development process more transparent for the business stakeholders. So from that perspective, I see that OutSystems has really helped us to bridge the gap between developers and the stakeholders. Yeah.
All right, I don't want to pressure you on this, but do you have an example of how you've used OutSystems to communicate technical requirements more effectively?
Okay, so one of the things I can think of is like we have leveraged this integration builder because we will have to communicate, connect with multiple other technology stacks, and using OutSystems, because of these builders that are provided by OutSystems, we don't have to write code from scratch. and we don't have to, all these wrapper components that we need to connect to these external tables entities are automatically generated by OutSystems itself using these connectors. So most of the time that developers could take to create these are drastically reduced, and it's easy for even a non-technical person to understand how to create these flows on the fly, and also show a rapid prototype as an early on stage, but then also pass it on to the developers who could potentially develop it into a beautiful running application.
Nice.
Great.
And I wouldn't just stop with that also. So there is another important feature, an ETC provider. I'm not sure how many of them are using it, because that's a very good tool for business to capture feedbacks on the fly. So by enabling this ETC provider, it's something I think it comes with a lifetime itself. So there, if you enable it for each and every app, you could potentially capture a screen snippet of the application with the stakeholders that they wanted to comment. Just like how you can capture and comment on Word documents, you could potentially capture it on a web application. And because of that, as developers, they get those details from the stakeholders directly on the application, and they could see what are the comments that has been provided. Based on that, they could create follow-up Jira stories, etc. This has been a feature that has been running with OutSystems for quite some time. Yeah.
Awesome. I love hearing all those very specific insights. And your technical knowledge is very apparent, in your examples, and that's really great. So we are at the time of the show where we'd like to answer some questions from the audience. We've had a couple pop up in the chat, and so with the time that we have left, I'd love to get your take on this. I'd like to start with this question from Miguel. Thank you, Miguel. But do you have business features that appear from spontaneous technical development? I'm really curious about this one, and I don't know if maybe if Fernanda, or if you're familiar with any instances, or have you seen where technical development has actually ended up leading to business features or feature development?
I'm not just, I would say feature, but we have had one project that I worked on where we actually, the initial requirement was we want to have a web application because it was actually a proof of concept of IoT technology actually, and that was the initial requirement. But as we evolved, we saw also the need that the people using it, at least some of the users, would need to actually use on their mobiles. But because it was a proof of concept and there was also pressure on timing, we realized that actually a great feature that I think is exclusive from OutSystems is the PWA, the Progressive Web App, and that I think was great value and solution that we found together. To really have the application out there to collect the feedback that they need, validating. So it proves again that the collaboration is very important with the developers.
Great. Yeah, I love that example. And kind of keeping in that collaboration and with some of the OutSystems specific features, this question from Owen is around the differences between O11 and ODC in regards to communications between, the developers and the client or the end user. Praveen, have you seen kind of what that have you been able to experience that, or can you speak to any of those differences?
Yeah, so we did also experiment on comparing the differences and how we create applications in OS 11 and as part of ODC. So I would say it's a complete leap towards the next generation. So ODC, it's like it's all containerized. So basically, and also like applications, of course, you can create reactive web applications in ODC, similar to how you can create in OS 11 and also mobile applications. But I think it's very good because one major factor is that I think you can leverage this Menta, which comes along with the ODC itself. And the thing is, all you have to do is just input a requirement document, and you would get a very beautiful working application out of that requirement document, which you can later customize as per your need. This is something that I have seen for the first time, because OutSystems also had these templates, which are like predefined templates, which you can utilize earlier in OS 11, but now it has taken a very big high leap towards AI, integrating with AI, and that I see as a very good value add. And also for the fact so we have events here, so it's quite easier now to also integrate events into your process and trigger it. And I would say that it's a future.
Great. Yeah, thank you. You actually answered a little bit of the next question that we were going to ask, which is, how do you see OutSystems Mentor change the relationship between devs and biz? I know, Praveen, you've been able to get hands-on with Mentor, as you just said, but Fernanda, from your perspective, even if you haven't had a chance to use it or see it, how do you feel like AI tools that allow for even more rapid collaboration, how will that kind of change the future of collaboration between business and development?
Yeah, I was actually, when I was at the ON conference and it was presented, I had the glance a couple of times, but yeah, I think it's amazing that it's really evolving, and that proves also that as business, soon you can also, maybe you cannot be a developer per se yet, but yeah, I think it is really enabling the organizations to very quickly also build capabilities within the organization without relying on massive increasing your teams and having more results more quickly. So especially when it comes to speed, right? So if they're under pressure, I think the AI mentor will really expedite even more the development of the apps for sure.
Yep.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think we all know how much pressure, developers and business can be under. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for those insights and for answering questions on the spot as well, from our chat. And thank you to the chat for all the great questions. I do believe that's all the time that we have. Is that correct, Eliza?
I think we're about at it. Yep.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much to our amazing guests, to Fernanda, to Praveen, for being here today on our panel discussion about business and developer alignment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, looking forward.
Great, thank you, Fernanda. All
Thank you
right,
very much. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we did just talk a little bit about Mentor, and thank you to Fernanda and Praveen for sharing their insights. If you are interested in checking it out, which I am, and you haven't had a chance to yet, I'm sure many of you may have seen the presentations from one or seen our episode all about Mentor on Decoded Live that we had late last year. But there is the chance for you to try it yourself, because Mentor is now in general availability. Yes, this was a big announcement that happened earlier in January. And you can try it yourself. You can get access to Mentor and ODC for free. So this is a really big announcement that we recently made. So developers, if you already have an OutSystems account, you can access Mentor actually from your personal environment tab. If you want to go it that way, you can access it from our ODC training, or you can use the link in the chat to try ODC for free. This gives you access to a shared environment where you can check out ODC, build applications, but most importantly, use Mentor. And Mentor allows you to generate full stack applications using AI, iterate on those applications with AI suggestions. You can also edit directly in ODC Studio for fine grained control. And of course, Mentor also helps with ensure the ongoing quality of your application with code quality and security scanning. So there is a lot to check out, a lot to see, and it's really something that you want to check out for yourself, and we've made that available for you, and we're super excited for you to try it. I'm excited to see what people build. I want to see all the prompts. I want to see the app types. I want to see what comes from this, and that's what's really exciting for me. So while you are checking out Mentor, if you want some additional resources or want to learn more, since you already have YouTube open, I recommend checking out some of the exciting new video content that we have for you. So our developer advocacy team has been very busy in creating new video content, including a new product update series where you can check out the latest features that have come out from OutSystems. We have some OutSystems Foundation series and information about getting started with ODC. We also have some fun videos around things like coding confessions and mistakes that we've all made as developers, or how you can, interact with robotics and OutSystems. And we also do have a series on our favorite mentor features. So make sure that you are subscribed and check out these videos that we have for you, and let our team know, what other types of resources and videos that you'd like to see, because, we would like to be valuable for the community and make sure that you are enjoying your time as an OutSystems developer and learning. So make sure to check that out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Decoded Live. I think our panel was great. Before we leave, I also want to give a shout out to the Heineken Poland office Wi-Fi for not going down on us. This is the first time we've ever had two people from the same team join us for a panel, and I think it was really good. We had a blast. We had some great questions from the audience. And our next episode is headed your way in just a couple months. So please subscribe to our channel to get notified. But until then, have a lovely rest of the season, and we will see you at Dev Days and 1.
See you then. Thank you.
Bye.